What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Fantasy Alarm NFL DFS live stream
big baseball
here.
news. Big baseball news breaking.
Huge baseball news breaking today. It's like left and right. I tweeted out. I'm like, I don't even know what the GMs are just trying to get all this stuff out of the way right now, just so they can party in Vegas for the
That's
week.
what's happening for sure. That's definitely what the Mariners GM's doing right now. He's like, I don't want to spend a minute longer than I have to, because if I have nobody to trade, nobody will want to talk to me. So
it's going to be very interesting to see. We'll probably end up doing some sort of a whole MLB live stream just to kind of recap everything as it's going through the process, through the winter meetings, and we start recapping a number of these moves. Goldie traded today, Paul Goldschmidt, so you guys can go check that out. We're here to talk football. We're here to talk NFL DFS. We're here to talk about a number of the situations. John, before we start talking specific watch list guys who we're checking out, there are a number of situations for the running back position. I'm kind of talked out on them. I'm curious as to your thoughts here. I'll just go one by one, and then you can kind of give me your thoughts. Let's start off with Spencer Ware, Kansas City. Yes, Damian Williams is going to get some work. Yes, they brought in Sharkhandrick West, who's obviously familiar with the system here. I still feel like Spencer Ware is the lead dog in this race, but I don't know. Do you get scared off? I mean, I know it's not a great matchup this week against Baltimore, but the guys like Damian Williams and Sharkhandrick West kind of give you pause to use Spencer Ware.
West would bother me more, I think, than Williams, just because he's spent so many years in the system. He knows the offense, knows the team. He's going to back up to Ware before. But I am not a person to overreact one way or the other to one performance. So I have no problem with the fact that Ware had an average game where the problem is everybody's hoping he'd be Hunt, which he wasn't. Obviously, it's very difficult to replace a guy as talented as Kareem Hunt was, but he still did a good job, and the offense is very pass forward, and that's something we should have been aware of all season. A lot of Hunt's touchdowns came in the passing game. So I'm still okay with Ware. I think what we saw last week is probably what we're going to see again this week. He's going to get you 50, 60 yards and a touchdown, and maybe he'll catch a couple passes as well. But, I'm not going to overreact one way. I didn't anticipate Ware going out and having this huge game anyhow. We had to use him in DFS because of his price tag. That's why everybody was talking about him, why everybody was on him. But again, I have no problem going back there again. This offense is legit. I understand that they get the Ravens this week, right? Their defense is pretty solid. But I think the fact is they're going to go out, they're going to jump ahead. I think this is the game where Lamar Jackson comes back down to earth on the road in Kansas City, and they're just going to run Spencer Ware to end this game out, and I think he's going to be fine.
I agree with you. I do think he's going to be fine as well. Yeah, I think a lot of people just kind of forgot about the fact that it was like all the Kareem Hunt stuff went down on a Friday. All right, and so Spencer Ware gets word on Friday that he's starting this week.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, listen, 47 yards and a touchdown. Given the state of the running back position right now and the number of guys, I'll take that any day of the week. Absolutely. Yep. All right, well, yeah, last week Spencer Ware was the free square that everybody took for their cash games. It was a no-brainer move. He wasn't min-price, but still pretty heavily down. Let's go to the other one then. Let's talk Jalen Samuels. 3,700 on DraftKings right now. Everybody's going to be all over Jalen Samuels at that price.
He's definitely going to be very popular, but I feel like personally there's an overreaction a little bit here to Samuels. I think that he came into the game at the perfect opportunity for them to use him. They were running down the field. They were in sort of a red zone-y area. He's a pass catcher. That's more what he is than a running back. He even came out today and said, me and Stephen Ridley are going to share carries. I'm going to have a certain set of packages. Ridley's going to have a certain set of packages. For me, those packages for Samuels are probably going to be pass plays. I think that's his best skill set. There's a reason why he was like a tight end in college, wasn't he? And then they sort of try to move him around. So I don't think he's going to be this give the ball 15 times to run the ball. I think he's going to get a couple of carries. He's going to get a couple pass attempts. And Stephen Ridley, who's the more established runner, between the tackles runner, someone I can see getting goal line touches, I think he is going to see the majority of the carries. In PPR leagues, though, especially DraftKings formats at the price tags, yeah, Samuels is going to be uber uber chalk, but I'm a little bit skeptical because I just don't think they're going to use him the way people are adding him. He's not James Conner replacing Le'Veon Bell, you know?
Right. Yeah. He's got more versatility than Stephen Ridley, but I agree with you. And I've said it in a bunch of, whether it was the hot takes article, whether it was the handcuff report, Stephen Ridley's going to handle that early down work. You see the way that it's going to be. There are some situations where a running back goes down that there is no direct handcuff. It's a standard league handcuff versus a PPR handcuff.
Yeah.
And I do like Samuels a lot for that. So the question is now, for those out there in Yahoo land here, let's take a look.
Legitimately.
What's that?
Legitimately Yahoo land.
Right. Well, I mean, listen, he's actually been, it's kind of funny. He's been listed as a tight end the entire season.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't understand why this really shocks people now with it. But, listen, I took Jalen Samuels. I knew Lev Bell was holding out. It was a question of how much was he going to hold out and was he going to get hurt. But I was taking Jalen Samuels with my last pick in a ton of drafts, I took him in the FSTA draft with my last pick. And I even said to people, well, when they were like, why are you taking him? I'm like, well, A, I think Lev Bell's going to get hurt. And B, I said, if you play on Yahoo, this dude qualifies as a tight end. Why wouldn't you want to use a running back in your tight end slot? So let's play the game I played with Jim Bowden today on the phone or on the show and ask you, John, would you start Jalen Samuels in the tight end spot ahead of this tight end? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's play it.
Travis Kelce.
No.
Zach Ertz.
No.
George Kittle.
Nope.
Eric Ebron.
No.
Rob Gronkowski.
Maybe. Maybe.
Are you 50-50?
I'm 50-50 because he's still Gronk, but the Patriots are terrible in Miami. So, yeah, you know what? I think that's probably, I may lean Samuels there, yeah.
Jared Cook. Going up against Pittsburgh this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would do Cook, I think. I'd do Cook.
Cameron Brate.
Against the Saints, no. I don't think I'd do Brate.
Okay, so there you are. So top 6 basically is where you're at.
Yeah.
Top 6 tight ends, at least according to the rankings that Brett Talley threw up there. He's got Kelce, Ertz, Kittle, Ebron, Gronk, Jared Cook is his top 6. And then from there, you would say anybody below that: Cameron Brate, Austin Hooper, Jordan Reed, Vance McDonald, Jimmy Graham, David Njoku, all these guys.
I'd probably play Njoku at home this week. I like him in his matchup.
Okay.
But that's probably everybody else, like you said, I'd really have to take some pause and consider Samuels.
All right. Okay, I can dig that. And then the third running back who we're talking about here to start things off, Jeff Wilson, going up against Denver. It's not a great matchup. It's not the worst matchup because Denver's run defense was actually pretty soft at the beginning of the year because what happened was a lot of people were letting the edge rushers commit and then doing the quick out, and wide. So when you look at that, Jeff Wilson, obviously, he's not the speed demon, but did have 8-9 catches this past week.
Right.
Denver ranks 22nd against running back pass plays.
And that's what the appeal is. And the fact that they don't have anybody else. They really don't want to run Alfred Morris unless they absolutely necessarily have no other option to do so. So it's really Jeff Wilson who's going to see the work. He got a handful of carries even before last week. Obviously, nobody looked at that and thought oh, maybe he's someone to pick out because you figured Breida was going to be okay. Obviously, he wasn't. So, yeah, I mean, Wilson, I think, is someone you're going to play just because there's nobody else. I like that they're at home in this matchup. I think that still is beneficial to them. And as I mentioned to you before, I kind of like Mullins here as a value dart throw quarterback because of it. Marquise Goodwin returning to practice today, I think, helps that offense out a little bit as well. Gives them another, receiving weapon there. And I think that helps Wilson, gives the teams something else to think about So yeah, I'm using on him. I claimed him actually in a few seasonal leagues as well.
All right, so let's rank the three of them now. You've got Spencer Ware. You've got Spencer Ware against Baltimore. Jalen Samuels against Oakland. Jeff Wilson Jr. going up against Denver Broncos. Rank them for you. Just 1, 2, 3 for DFS purposes here.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. So sort of the way you listed them. To be honest with you, I think I'm gonna go with. Yeah, I'll go Ware, Samuels, and Wilson as you listed them. I think that eventually, given the PPR format, Pittsburgh's gonna need to throw a lot really to stay in that game. Without Ridley, I don't think they're just gonna all of a sudden hand him 20 carries. So I think Samuels is gonna have a lot of the packages. He's gonna catch 5 or 6 passes. Still get a handful of carries himself, maybe some draw plays. So I'll go Ridley 2. I'll go Ware just because that offense is better than any of the other 2 offenses. And we'll go Wilson last.
All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Should be very interesting to see how we end up structuring a lot. There's so many. I mean, I did the watch list. And there's so many other matchups that I just dig rather than even fighting for salary, with some of these guys. Like I like seeing Aaron Jones in his matchup here. Just also in a sense that I feel like, the team is going to be out to prove that it was the right decision to fire Mike McCarthy. Right. And put forth that kind of an effort. I mean, it's Atlanta. So, I mean, Atlanta's terrible. I don't care. Deion Jones or no Deion Jones. That run defense is atrocious there. Philip Lindsay going up against San Francisco. I got him in the watch list there. It's another one that if you're talking PPR darling on DraftKings, I mean, how do you not use Philip Lindsay as a lock this week?
Yeah, I mean, well, you and I were all in on him last week, and that paid off huge. Obviously, that 60-yard touchdown run had it. You talked about him as your one of your biggest regrets this season was doubting Philip Lindsay, calling him the Tariq Cohen of this year. I was in the same boat. After week 1 or 2, I think it was week 1, waiver wire article that I wrote, I was like, hey, everybody's going to go overboard here. Let's pump the brakes, yada, yada, yada. Well, I was wrong. He's going to run for 1,000 yards. And this is a great matchup against San Francisco. So he's going to be super highly owned. He was 35%, I think he was last week. I think that's where we're going to see him at again this week. And because everybody has all that other value as well, I think this week is the week you see everybody spend up a receiver.
I'd like to see everybody spend up at a receiver. Let's figure out our quarterback situation first, and then we'll come back to the receivers. Because, I mean, listen, yes, obviously everybody and their grandma wants to get a slice of Michael Thomas in this matchup here against Tampa Bay. That's going to be a huge one. Drew Brees, you lock him down as your cash game play here. You've got him as a top price option, but I don't know if you listed him underneath Rivers and Jameis Winston for ranking purposes or just you were thinking anti-alphabetical?
Nope, that's where I like him. I like him below Rivers and Winston this week. The game plan against Dallas was interesting. I think I was a little bit surprised to see them just unable to do anything against that defense. I understand Tampa Bay is not the Dallas defense, but they're also on the road. If you look at Fantasy Alarm, at least for now, we had sort of some rain clouds in that game. I'll have to check the weather to see if that ends up holding true or not. But potentially, if on Sunday there's some bad weather, they're on the road, they're out of the dome, typically that's where we've seen Brees play worse. Now he's having a great year this year on the road because he's having a great year overall. But I'm a little skeptical, especially now there's the word today Michael Thomas didn't practice. I don't know how concerning that is to anybody, right? Because he's not throwing to Traquan Smith. He's not throwing to anybody else. So if something's happening to Michael Thomas here, I think we have to downgrade Drew Brees. For me, Brees is my number 3 quarterback at the top price. I like Phillip Rivers as my number 1 overall quarterback this week. And Winston, I like him at home against the Saints defense. So that's how I got him ranked.
All right, beautiful, beautiful. Who's your cash lock? Who are you doing?
I think I'm using Rivers as my cash quarterback this week against Cincinnati. I think that's just the matchup to take advantage of. At home this year, Rivers is averaging 6 more DraftKings points per game than he is on the road. He's completing 73% of his passes, averaging nearly 330 yards through the air. Bengals defense, they're just terrible. So for me, Rivers, I think, is the guy especially if Gordon remains out. They're going to throw a lot more, I think. They're not going to hand off a ton to Eckler or a ton to Jackson. They're going to use Eckler in the passing game. So for me, I think Rivers is my number one quarterback.
I didn't even include Eckler into our running back discussion, but him and Justin Jackson are probably right there with Wilson and Ware and Samuels. Where do you put Eckler and Jackson in that mix?
I probably have Eckler right behind Ware. Jackson, I probably have behind Wilson. I'm just unsure how much he's going to get. He looked really good. But again, he only saw like 7 carries, so he's not involved in the passing game. So if we're looking at him just to occasionally spell Eckler and get his 5, 6, 7 carries, unless he finds the end zone, there's no real upside for me there. So I'm probably ranking him last.
Okay, I can get down with that. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the wide receivers here. Before we do that, over on YouTube, Dan Pusateri says he's got Lindsey, he's got McCaffrey, and he's got Aaron Jones. Pick 2.
Lindsey and McCaffrey.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at also. It's a shame to sit Jones. How do you not have a flex spot there? But
right.
All right, before we start talking wide receivers here, Fantasy Factor, baby. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Fantasy Factor is you want everything that we do in all sports. Well, through the next NFL season, and you can get everything else free until 2020. Fantasy Factor, they're going to pay for you. They're picking up the tab. Today's actually the last day. This is it. Today. Last day to do this. You go to Fantasy Factor, you deposit $10, you hit us up at support@fantasyalarm.com, and guess what? You get your playbook for free, and Fantasy Factor is going to pick up the tab there completely. Is there a different? FantasyAlarm.com/free playbook. There you go. FantasyAlarm.com/free playbook. Wide receivers. All right, so Michael Thomas is banged up. Very depressing news. It's very upsetting. I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. So where are we going after that? Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen. Who are you liking today?
No, I mean, I definitely like the I have Big Ben listed as my last of the top price plays because typically they don't play. He doesn't play as well on the road, but this is the Raiders defense. They're allowing the most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes just shredded them the other game for another huge 4-touchdown performance for him. I think they're going to sling it because no James Conner. Again, I'm not expecting the Steelers to run a ton here. I think they're going to rely on Big Ben. So for me, Juju and Brown are 2 guys that are very much in play. I don't mind spending up for them this week.
Yeah, I don't mind spending up for them this week either. Where are you looking for your value? I turned around and I was like, listen, you can't go wrong with the Humphreys or Godwin play, especially if Djax is out. You got to go one or the other. I don't want to go both. You could technically go both if you're going to stack it. If
you went both last week, you did fine. They both scored a touchdown, and Godwin had over 100 yards.
He was actually, so if you took the playbook last week, you took the playbook and the dartboard, and you built the winning lineup, obviously it's a hindsight lineup, but the Winston stack with Humphreys and Godwin and the other guys from the playbook who you could fit in around those guys actually netted you 235 points over on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Which wins everything everywhere.
Yeah. They refuse to really bump up the price tag on Humphreys and Godwin. Like, he finally got moved up from 42 to 4,900 price tag. Why isn't Adam Humphreys like a 5,500 plus player on DraftKings? Like, he's consistently producing double-digit fantasy points now in like 6 of the last 7 weeks. He's scoring touchdowns at a really large clip. He's got 5 over the last 5 games. He's facing a defense allowing the most fantasy points to receivers. And the defense for the Saints is going to be focusing on shutting down Mike Evans. So
exactly, Marshawn Lattimore is going to be on him the whole time.
Right. So him and Godwin are in another prime position. They priced them both at $4,900, but that's still, I think, a little too cheap given the matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely too cheap.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting to me. I actually, I wrote up Josh Allen and the QB coach this week. I mentioned how it was a handful of weeks ago you were just trying to like convince me to play Bills, and I was like, no way, over my dead body. But this week, I am actually interested in playing some Bills. I think Zay Jones, now the fact that he's the only receiver left on Buffalo, after yesterday they just decided to say hell with it, and they got rid of Kelvin Benjamin and was it Andre Holmes, I think it was, who quickly found a new team today with Emmanuel Sanders' injury there. So I think Zay Jones is a GPP play, and I think Josh Allen's a GPP play.
Listen, 234 rushing yards from your quarterback in 2 games.
Yeah.
2 games. If he didn't take the knee in that first game, he would have cleared that 100-yard bonus there again for you.
Right.
And really, when people start pointing that out, I'm like, how many times do you think Josh Allen's ever going to take a knee? Like, how many times? Come on.
Hey, Tom Brady took a knee forward the other day to make sure he kept his 1,000-yard career rushing yards.
way to go, Tommy. Thank you so much, man.
They're selling the T-shirt in the Patriots Pro Shop. 1,000-yard career rushing, Tom Brady.
Tom.
Cortland Sutton. Now they know Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
How much ownership do you think? Yeah. How much ownership do you think he gets this week? Because he's only 4,500. I never liked the fit for Sutton with Case Keenum because Keenum to me isn't a downfield passer, and that's Sutton's game. He's a downfield threat. But I mean, again, we're talking about like who else do they have? They just picked up Holmes off the street. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know who's the backup receivers there. Like, who's behind Cortland Sutton? Who's the number 3 receiver?
You got Tim Patrick and Deshaun Hamilton are the 2 guys, and Hamilton is like that deep threat. He's not somebody that you're interested in. The problem for me, and the question for me is, listen, it's not for this week. I don't mind pivoting just to Cortland Sutton, considering the fact that it's San Francisco. I'm sorry, Richard Sherman he hasn't been the same in how many years? Yeah. I don't see him keeping up pace, speed wise. And Sutton's already got Sutton's already got the height advantage to him also. So if the ball gets thrown up in the air, if it's a jump ball, Sutton's going to be the guy who's going to come down with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of an interesting situation with this. But again, do they float the extra coverage that way only because they know that Sutton is the only established receiver? Do we maybe think about pivoting tight end wise and going back to this Matt Lacoste situation that screwed everyone?
I don't know. I mean, I didn't play him last week, but everywhere you looked in terms of like value tight ends, like this is what everybody was talking about, and he didn't get a target, right? He didn't know 1 target, 0 catches, yeah. So, but I mean, right? If there's ever a time to go back to somebody, it's when like the slot receiver goes down and the quarterback can only throw 8 yards over the middle. Like go to the tight end. So, sure, it's certainly a play in GPPs, but. Again, I don't trust this Denver. If anything, I'm just hoping this means they run the ball more. Give Phillip Lindsay more touches. That's where I'm leaning here. But I think Sutton's gonna have potentially some interesting ownership given the news to Sanders.
No doubt. All right. Well, so far what I'm looking at, where I'm at is I'm looking at having at least Devontae Adams or Antonio Brown. We'll see what happens with Michael Thomas. Then I'm looking at the Humphreys-Godwin tandem at 49. And then I feel like I want one more super cheapie. There are 2 guys who I have here in the in the watch list. I'm curious as to your thoughts. Number 1, Michael Gallup is 3,700. Mm-hmm. Now, I get it. Cowboys passing attack really isn't that strong. The offense rolls through Ezekiel Elliott. Amari Cooper is the standout wide receiver here. When you're talking Philadelphia, the whole secondary is disgusting. They're going to need to put more than one guy occupying Cooper's time, which sort of opens things up a little bit for Michael Gallup. So I look to him for that. Or dare we go back to the Antonio Callaway well one more time? This guy had like a 72-yard touchdown called back, and then he turns around and he catches a 70-yard touchdown, and then he fumbles it at the 1.
Right? I thought he was showboating when that happened. I thought he was like kind of sticking his arms out to like celebrate, and he got a knock. What are you doing, man? Just like tuck it and go or something, just Yeah, that was depressing. I do like Callaway, but Callaway's another guy that I feel like all season, since the Josh Gordon trade at least, we've been waiting for him to like really have this big game, and it just hasn't really come. But at home against Carolina, this is a good spot for him. Carolina's allowing the third most fantasy points to receivers. No problem going back to him there. Again, GPP only. These aren't cash game plays by any stretch.
Right.
I know you get a little crazy with your cash games, but for me, I play a little bit more conservative. Gallup,
conservative. You're stacking. How is?
I'm not stacking. I stacked the quarterback and the wide receiver. That's just standard. Standard play.
You didn't stack. You didn't stack before last cash games like 2 weeks ago.
No.
We have this conversation. I'm not talking about just straight up quarterback, wide receiver. I don't mind that at all.
No, I think I mentioned that you could use the Saints with like Breeze and Kamara or Breeze and Thomas. I didn't use them all in my cash games. I just think you could use them both.
I have to go back to some audio here.
We have it. We have it.
It is all over the place.
It's all over the place. With Gallup, I like the targets that he's seeing of late. Now, he hasn't always converted the targets, and the game against New Orleans is one of the best games he's had all year, but 7 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets last 3 games. So I definitely think that if he's being targeted more, with defenses now really having to actually focus on a receiver that can do something in that offense. Who knew Amari Cooper just needed to get out of Oakland, and all of a sudden he would be this great receiver all over again. So I don't mind Gallup for sure. I think, again, he's going to draw secondary coverage, and teams are going to focus on stopping Zeke and stopping Cooper. So don't hate it as a dart throw.
All right, well, talk to me here. If I'm a little too wacky with my cash lineups, in what sense? That like I go with this dart throw who I don't give a crap if he comes up with a 0 for me because I know that I've got like Christian McCaffrey and Drew Brees in there, and I know that I've got locked down 2 other wide receivers or Kelsey.
The week I'm referencing, obviously, and we had this discussion that week too, so I guess it's my bad for rehashing it, but Tre'Quan Smith has now been like 0, 10 catches on 13 targets for whatever the week using your cash lineup, and then 0 again. So, like, that volatility for me screams GPP. I wouldn't have had it in my cash game lineup, but it worked for you. And you had DJ Moore in your lineup that day, crushed it. But I think there was a reason why those 2 guys in your cash lineups were 2% and 3% owned, because they're more GPP plays. Again, they hit, so who am I to say anything? Really. But for me, it's just more riskier for me. I understand their upside, and because they hit, nobody else owned them. You won all your cash games that day. I tend to lean chalk for me when it comes to cash because I don't want to fade it and have them go off and then be without it. And I try to play more conservative in cash games. So again, that's just the 2 different styles. I don't try to and I guess that's to my fault too. Like I don't try to win the 50-50. I try to come in 40th.
I don't look to win the 50-50, which is why I say that I'll pay down for $3,800. I'll pay down at a guy as long as I know that, I'll be fine taking the 0 from him. If he doesn't 0 out, then okay, so be it. But I'll take that chance because I've got the guys in there, the chalk plays who are, top guys who are supposed to go off there.
No, I mean, I get it. And it's impossible to play all of the chalk, obviously. So you're going to have guys in your cash lineups that are going to probably be 10%, 9%, something in that range. But even then, like those are more, I feel like, safer options. It was just that you had DJ Moore and Tre'Quan Smith in your lineups that day, and they had the best days of their lives. But heading into those games, there was nothing to ever indicate that they were going to give you more than like 4 fantasy points. So,
right, but isn't the whole concept of DFS like it's a fresh week every single week, and it's strictly about those matchups in particular, and maybe a guy doesn't see the targets that you want him to see the week before, but then all of a sudden you see the matchup and how it's all set, and you're like, this is how they're going to go. I
mean, in terms of what you're saying, like, yes, DFS every week is a new week, but I mean, there's plenty of statistics and trends and game planning that you see in scripting that certain players are fairly predictive in terms of their like volatility from week to week in scoring, which is why you have guys priced up consistently, why there's guys that are always priced down as consistently as they are. There are players that are just more inconsistent overall. So, I mean, sure, yeah, you can look at a match and be like, oh, well, they're going to do X and cover this, and this cornerback matchup is great, so DJ Moore is going to catch 10 balls for 150 yards and 2 scores. But the likelihood that that's the game that he has, given what he's done all season, is pretty low. Now, obviously, since that game, he's been much more... That basically is what he's been since then. So now if you put him in your cash games, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense because he's given us 3 weeks now of that production. More people are on him now, so his ownerships have risen, and you definitely caught him at an opportunity at low ownership to, like I said, win all your cash games that week. But, again, it's just a different outlook I have on cash. I tend to lean chalk more often than I do playing risk because – I don't want to be left out not playing somebody or being too risky and having a dud and then not cashing when you only need to be at half the field. So I'd rather be with the majority of the field with certain players and know that that's going to get me over the hump than potentially fall out because a guy who was not very highly owned doesn't do anything for me.
Okay, so then the guys who are going to save you, like let's just talk some wide receivers who could potentially save you some money in your cash games, which are also involved in more of a low risk. So I'm just going by the ownership percentage. We have the ownership forecaster over here at fantasyalarm.com. Yep. 4,900, Chris Godwin.
Yep.
Okay, as opposed to he's 15.3% projected. Adam Humphries 9.8%. So you say Godwin over Humphries there for your cash games. Humphries possibly for your GPP, or is 9.8 good enough for you?
So it's interesting to me that he's only 9.8 because I don't understand. Like he should be higher owned. I'm gonna pull up.
He will be. I mean, the ownership forecaster. We always have to, we upload it, and you always got to refresh, and you got to check every day.
And the ownership forecaster is more tailored towards the GPPs.
Yeah, big entry, high entry GPP.
Right. So for me, I think it makes sense to fade Humphries and GPPs because it should be considered contrarian. Like you think a lot of people will be on him, so you should be off of him, sort of reverse psychology type thing. In cash games, I'm figuring Humphries is more. I mean, you're looking at the guy who's been consistently productive for as long as he's been in this season. Now in a matchup against the best matchup he could have while at home. I would be surprised if he's only 9% at 4,900.
Yeah, again, these always end up going up by the the closer to the week. This is just like early speculation here. That's what the watch list is all about. Cortland Sutton, they're projecting $4,500, 14.2% on DraftKings.
Yeah.
So that's a guy you want to get into your lineups, into your cash lineups. That's how you're going to save some money.
So I think that he was going to be highly owned because of the injury to Sanders. Mm-hmm. Yes, for the ownership point, I can understand him being in cash games, but he's another guy that I look at his production, and it's too volatile. I don't think he's a good fit for the quarterback. So I guess it is if we approach Sunday, if that ownership continues to rise. I don't know how quickly it's been updated given the Sanders news. If I come in on Sunday and he's up to 19% or whatever like that, then I'll probably have to play him. Because I don't want to be caught without him. But yeah, that'll be something we'll have to look at as we get closer to Sunday.
Yeah, Traquan Smith right underneath him, my friend, $4,500, 9.5% projection there.
Yeah.
But again, obviously, I'm at that point right now where I saw what they did and I loved it, and the fact that Sean Payton has completely deviated from everything he's been supposed to be doing over the last couple of weeks. Kind of has me off Traquan Smith this week because I think that this needs to just get back to Kamara, Thomas, maybe.
Well, that's all it was. That's all it was last week against Dallas. It was Kamara and Thomas dominated the targets. Kirkwood, right? That's his name. He got 3 targets, and then the tight end there got 2, and that was like it. He only threw to the running back in Thomas there. I think their offense would be better suited if he would spread the ball out a little bit more. I don't understand why they're not using Smith. I don't. Is he still hurt? Like I never loved the appeal of him in the first place. But since he had that huge game, why isn't he getting more looks? It just doesn't. I don't understand.
I don't know. Listen, hey, why isn't Calvin Ridley produced for anybody?
Oh, because Matt Ryan's not that good of a quarterback.
Aw, Matty Ice, dude, come on. BC, he was like your boy.
That was a long time ago.
Right? Well, people don't forget, dude. People don't forget.
People don't forget.
But I mean, I look at, it's kind of funny. Calvin Ridley against the Saints, he had those 13 targets here. But I mean, you're looking at a guy, it's like 5 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets.
This is a Falcons offense that didn't target Julio Jones in the red zone for a while.
Right,
Didn't even have him on the field. So again, how confident are we really in that and what their passing attack is?
Well, I mean, we can all just blame Steve Sarkisian for being a lousy offensive coordinator.
Yeah, they scapegoated the wrong man there, getting Shanahan after that Super Bowl. They should have, I understand that some of the play calling was a bit questionable, but there's also some awareness with Matt Ryan and like you can't take that sack. You can't do there's things that he messed up as well. Besides the play calling there with Shanahan after that Super Bowl, I think they would have been better off keeping him. But of course, he's a highly paid NFL head coach now, so he did the right thing.
Yeah, he did. And a little shout out to your boy Zay Jones, right now at 4,200, a 7.1 projection.
I like him. I like him.
I know you do,
especially against your Jets there.
Yeah. Zay Jones or Curtis Samuel?
Ooh, that's good. I go Zay because he's the number one. Samuel obviously has had a good week last week. Funch coming back and healthy. No Greg Olsen. I think I could go Zay Jones still. Still think I could go Zay Jones.
Yeah, I'm off. I'm actually off DJ Moore this week.
Is it because they're on the road against Cleveland, or just in general?
Well, it's a little of both. I have no idea what's going on with Cam Newton's shoulder right now. He's not zipping the ball in.
Yeah.
There's definitely something to worry about. I was watching video of Ohio State, Maryland last year.
Yeah.
I'm watching the plays where DJ Moore was being covered by Denzel Ward. Ohio State romped him 62-14, 2 catches, 11 yards for DJ Moore. Now he's got the full Denzel Ward shadow the entire game coming up here. And between Cam's troubles, between the shadow from Denzel Ward, I'm not interested. I think that Curtis Samuel is actually a really nice pivot off of that. And I don't give Funchess a look at all. That dude,
he
never
did
a
come up with
100-yard game.
He did get in the end zone, though, and I think he replaces Olsen as the red zone target for Newton.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I think Newton could be injured because every time they get within the 5, he thinks he's a fullback. And he tries to put his head down and shoulder his way in, which isn't the way to go, especially as me with a McCaffrey owner. Give the ball to the running back. Let him do some damage. So...
All right. Well, some definite food for thought, people. Something to think about between now and when you're setting your lineups on Sunday. No interest in tomorrow night's game whatsoever for you, is there, John?
I'm not even going to watch it. I don't even want to watch it.
I'll set the over/under at 21. What do you think?
Points? It was like a 9-6 game the first time they played.
Yep. I got a lot of people saying 13-6 this time around.
Who's the Cody Kessler, right? That's a quarterback for Jacksonville right now?
Yeah, it is Cody Kessler.
At least Fournette's back. We'll get to watch him run, I guess.
Ooh, small. Yeah, until the hamstring gives out midway through the first quarter.
Yeah, they can't flex Thursday games, huh?
No can do, baby. No can do. That's going to do it for us, guys. The DFS watch list is out at fantasyalarm.com, as is the quarterback coach from John. You got the tight end coach from Grande. You got the wide receiver coach from Colby Conway, and then Tom Vecchio doing the running backs coach. Dan Malin handles the defense. That's coming on Friday. I think that's all we got for today here. So just want to say thanks so much for tuning in. Big thanks to our producer, Matt Sells. Big thanks to you, John and Pemba, for always brightening my day. We'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for joining us.